Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Garb August 2024. Garb August 3D, a great BookTube event created by Ollie at Criminolly to get us all reading trash in the month of August, get us all wasting as much of our reading time as possible before we all buckle down to those big, long-running series, each volume of which is 900 pages, to those very serious, chin-stroking new translations of classics, to all that stuff that's coming out in the autumn and the winter. Garb August is our communal break to wallow in garbage before all that happens. This Garb August for 2024 has been wonderful for me. I have had lots and lots of surprises, and also lots and lots of things that made me think about what it is, what garbage is, what we're even talking about, and where the dividing lines are. It's been so much fun. It's been so much fun to watch all the videos, too. And even when people aren't trying to get all Jesuitical like I do, they were still coming out with lots and lots of thoughts on the nature of garbage and what isn't garbage. And today, for my Garb August pick, the book I added to my reading last night raises an age-old question. Actually, it challenges an age-old saying of mine, a saying from the American Midwest, a saying that was a mainstay of my life for quite a few years, and that saying was, you can't polish a turd. In the spirit of Garb August, I start to ask, can you polish a turd? Can you make something good out of something bad? Under the worst possible auspices, is it possible to do that? I have not found it to be possible much, very often, but last night I read a book that was going to teach me that lesson if anything was. I read this, The Wolfman, which is the novelization of Joe Johnston's 2010 movie by the same name, starring Anthony Hopkins and Benicio del Toro. Emily Blunt is in it. Hugo Weaving is in it. This is the novelization of that. So am I told, based on the screenplay by Andrew Kevin Walker and David Self, and the motion picture screenplay by Kurt Schoedmack. So in other words, a huge number of people, because it's not just those people, it's also all of their cocaine dependents and all of their rehab group people and all of their own rewrite people. It's probably a dozen people had their hands in the production of this story, not one jot or tittle of which Jonathan Mayberry, the actual writer of this novelization, can change. He can't look at the bare bones structure of this story and say, well, that's crappy. That you're missing a huge chance there. So no, I'm going to change that. He can't do that. The most that you can do when you're doing a movie adaptation, a novelization of a screenplay, is add. And even your additions can't change. They can't fundamentally change anything. Which is why I have been contending for all the years of Garb August and for many years before that, that movie novelizations are, by definition, garbage. The writer can't do anything with the material. The writer did not come up with any of the material. The writer is stuck with what they do. And so they are writing a novel from inferior secondhand materials and losing the one element that could raise that crap, all those elements, to an acceptable level, which is the visual element of a movie. Now we have to pause. Okay. In this case, that whole dance of culpability is complicated a bit by the fact that Joe Johnston's movie is terrible. The Wolfman movie is terrible. When it's not sleepy, it's creepy. And there are no good acting performances. Anthony Hopkins embarrasses himself in the movie. I have never been a huge fan of Benicio del Toro. I've never thought that he was any good at anything that I've ever seen him do. And that's included some movies that I actually like. I like Way of the Gun, for instance. But I don't think he's good in it. I don't think he's been good in anything. And he's not good in this movie. In this movie, he's called upon to act instead of just standing on like a slab of chilled meat, and he can't act, so it doesn't work. In the movie, he plays Lawrence Talbot, who is investigating the rumors of a monstrous people-eating beast in the Hills and Dales of Blackmore when he is bitten by that beast and therefore becomes a wolfman himself. He's given a werewolf curse. It seems to be at first random, but it isn't, because there may be a family element to this curse. I don't want to spoil the movie, although, God, if you find it in the dollar bin of used DVDs and you watch it, you'll never get that time back. I guess there's one rooftop scene that's fairly good visually. It's boring, but it's fairly good visually. But the set piece theme of the whole movie is the character transforming into a wolfman in front of an auditorium of people who do not believe that's what's going to happen. And that scene has all sorts of potential, and instead, it's weird and off-putting and ultimately boring, as is the whole movie. So in this case, that magic element of that, that a novelization doesn't have, where the movie is raising things by at least giving you visuals, is largely undercut, because there isn't anything visually interesting about the Wolfman. It isn't a good movie. So I was able to concentrate on the book, and of course Jonathan Mayberry has written a lot of novels, and I have loved them all. Almost all of them. I've written a lot of different kinds of things. I've never been able to break into this world. I've known 2 writers in my lifetime who did break into the world, get on the short list of people for movie adaptations. I've never been able to break into the world myself, even though I think I would take to it like a duck to water, because it involves you writing serviceable prose that doesn't need much editing at breakneck speed for an ironclad deadline. And I'm really good at that. I'm really good at doing that. I think those ranks are fairly closed, which is why so many of the same names seem to get these jobs over and over again. I would love to try it, but because I've never been in that world, I don't know much about it. I don't know, for instance, how ironclad that turnaround deadline is, how much time Jonathan Mayberry had to write this book. I don't imagine that it's a case where the writer of the novelization has a long time to ponder and revise. I don't imagine that that's the case. Because these things, if the book isn't out in bookstores the week of the movie, then you've failed. Ideally, the book should be out a week before the movie, with maybe stills from the movie. This thing doesn't have any artwork from the movie. It's just this. And so I went into it not quite knowing what to do. Jonathan Mayberry is an author that I really like, but movie novelizations are inherently bad. Movie novelizations are inherently bad, largely because they aren't the movies, but in this case, the movie is bad. So there are a whole bunch of question marks, and it turns out this is about as entertaining as a movie novelization can be. About as entertaining as one can be. Jonathan Mayberry takes the bones and skeletons, the muscles and circulatory system of the story that he was handed by all of these Goombas, and he makes it into something much better than the movie. Now, that wouldn't be hard, but he makes it into something bigger and also more surreal, and therefore, at the end, in material that is not in the movie, actually moving. So, I don't quite know. I enjoyed this quite a bit, but I don't quite know what to make of it in terms of triangulating for its place in Garb August, because this is a really good werewolf novel. Unfortunately, there aren't all that many really good werewolf novels. You would think, considering that werewolf mythos has been with mankind forever, you would think that there would be better ones than there are. There are a handful of really, really good ones. One by sometimes booktuber Troy Tretta wrote The Forsaken Boy, which is a great werewolf novel, probably the greatest werewolf novel. And then a few others, no more than 6. This is not a great werewolf novel, but it's a really, really good one. And everywhere that I expect it to maybe get the goods, it doesn't happen. Like you would think Anne Rice, coming off 30 years of writing really, really popular vampire novels, would be able to write a really effective, or at least a gripping, werewolf novel. No, she tried and it didn't work. And so on and so forth. Right down the line, almost everybody. The one classic horror gimmick idea that was a really noticeable failure on Stephen King's part was werewolves. If it hadn't been saved by great artwork, that book would have been a complete failure. And so on. So it's a rare thing that I read a werewolf novel that's good. In this case, it's just the standard curse. It's not that werewolfism, that lycanthropy is a science that is misunderstood. It's not that it's a curse from God, like a werewolf novel that I read a long time ago, where it turns out that werewolves are a curse from God on Pontius Pilate. It started with Pontius Pilate and his wife. uh, it's also not, in a lot of werewolf novels, you get through all the rigmarole, some of them more atmospheric, some of the more effective ones. You get through all the rigmarole and it turns out not to be a werewolf novel at all. It's just a crazy human, or many crazy humans. But not this. This was a very standard, there's a family curse, but there's also the randomness of being bitten. There's a tortured man trying to make things right, maybe using his curse to do that. Good stuff. Good stuff. So I did not have the trash experience of reading garbage when I read this book. This book is not garbage. It's just, it has all the trappings of that. Because it was made as a movie adaptation novel, which is sign of garbage number one. I think it's one of our yardsticks for garbage. And also it was made from a crappy movie. So you would think that it would have all the elements against it. But no. Garb August 2024 is managing to keep me off my pins and needles right to the bitter end, because this was not really trash. It was very enjoyable. So I will move on tonight to something else. We will see what we see. It will be either another case where things are crossing the streams, or another enjoyable book. I think I win either way as Garb August winds down. So I'll wrap this up. We keep trashing out all week long, and I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.